Tech Smarter. I am your host, Abby Ritchie, the tech guru here at the Smarter Service. And I'm so thrilled that you're joining me. Tech Smarter is the place where we talk with innovators, operators, and investors who are changing the face of aging services. It's such an exciting place to be, and I couldn't be more honored to be here talking with you today. Before I bring on my guests, I want to thank our sponsor, Leading Age Arizona, and to the Smarter Service for producing this episode. Now, if you happen to be a senior living operator and you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, my residents always have tech questions, I want you to reach out to us because we have a way that has allowed us to professionalize this service for your community and for your residents, and it will save you time and it will save you money. Go ahead and DM me today for more information. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on my guest today, Karina Stickle of GoIcon. Welcome to Tech Smarter, Karina.
Hello, Abby. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you here too. I'd love for you to go ahead and introduce yourself and share with the folks who are watching how you started in senior living and how you found yourself at GoIcon.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have about 17 years of experience working in senior living. My background is recreation therapy. So I've worked in memory care, I've worked in assisted living, independent living, day programs. I've sort of been around to work in different environments. So I'm really excited that I get to chat with other people who are working in that same environment now because while I was working in senior living, I started a podcast and I interviewed a lot of different people that were in the senior living industry, and that brought me to Age Tech. And so now I have the opportunity to work with GoIcon as their community engagement and program development manager. And I get to take a step back from working in the communities to working with the people that are in the communities. And so that's really exciting for me to be able to do that and still have my feet and pulse on the ground in the communities, but working from a different angle now.
I love that because as I talk with people who are working in senior living, there isn't a lot of them who have actually worked in the community and have worked one-on-one with residents. And I just find that for the folks that have done it, it's sort of like your eyes are open to, to what is really going on in the community. And anytime I talk with innovators about this, and if they haven't spent any time in the communities, I'm like, please go live there, live there for 2 weeks and just see what it's like. Because if you're creating products and technology to support older adults, you've got to really be in touch with the person that you're serving.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that GoIcon has a lot of different members of our staff that have actually been in those shoes, whether that's on the marketing teams, whether that is in recreation and life engagement, or as a nurse, we have a few nurses too. And so I think that's something that I really love about our team is that we've been there, we've experienced that, and then we're able to actually put the things that we learned in action.
Yeah, what I've found also is that there's a little lining of ageism among people who have not actually been in the trenches in the community, for instance. And some people may assume that older adults can't or they won't use the new tools. And when the real barrier, what we have found is really a lack of intuitive onboarding. And so I wanted to know from your vantage point at GoIcon, what are some of the most common psychological hurdles you see when you're introducing platform features to older adults?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I think that a lot of people assume that residents they don't want new technology or that's something that they're afraid of. And I think that we really need to value the implementation process here. As I said, we have our implementation and onboarding teams that have been in those shoes. And so they create an amazing system to really be able to break it down and showcase everything that GoIcon has to offer to the residents and train them super easy. Something that we absolutely live by is our 3-click rule. So we have no more than 3 clicks to where you need to get to. So that's something that I love too as myself. I want to be able to get to where I want to be in 3 clicks. And so we keep that at top of mind when we're creating our software so that our residents have that ease as well.
I love that because oftentimes when I'm speaking with people who are creating products for older adults, and they will often say it's plug and play or
Yeah.
it's so easy. But as you know, it's never
Yeah.
easy when you're explaining technology to an older adult. It's just not plug and play. And that to me is a huge disservice. But when I hear you saying it's a 3-click rule, like I love that because I see it and I know that anyone can hang in there for 3 clicks. So like that is awesome. That is awesome. It sounds to me like also when you bring in new technology to the communities, it's like you're adding screens, and people will often say like that actually is removing that human connection. How does your development philosophy ensure that technology serves as a bridge to deeper human connection?
I think that anybody that's working in senior living is working in senior living because they love those connections with the residents that they have in those communities. And I think that the tools that we're creating are never to replace that human connection. Our goal is to always be able to deepen those interactions with the residents by making their job a lot easier. And so we want to be able to provide those tools that streamline their workflow to make it easier, that save them time so that they can actually do what they love in the communities, which is spending that time with the residents. So we're here to just personalize this experience for everybody to be able to um, make it easier and be able to be out on that floor.
Yeah, for a lot of staff, like they get stuck explaining technology to the residents. They get corralled in the hallway, if something is wrong with someone's phone, and we also just they're also just like blatantly assume that they know how to teach the technology, right? And so it's not often the best use of staff time. It takes them away from doing the things that they love to do. And have you found any particular tools to drive adoption and reduce any innovation fatigue?
Well, I think that a lot of people that are in the communities have a lot on their plate already. And so sometimes they may not want that change and they may think that change is hard. And what I find in this situation is really acknowledging how this new technology is going to be benefiting them in the roles that they're in and making it feel that they are going to get that time back and that we value your opinions and that you know as I said, they'll have more of that human interaction in the end. I think that it's really important to show them how these tech tools work instead of just telling them how they work and, not rolling everything out at once. A lot of it could be information overload.
Yeah.
And so to gear back and giving them the tools that they need right at when they're launching and even if they're just saving 30 minutes of time, that is something that they should be celebrating.
I think that is such a good distinction. I know from working with older adults and helping them with their technology, sometimes the goal is just to show them everything, right? And like
Right.
show them how this works and like, did you know you could do this and that? And that is information overload. And
Mhm.
so partially it requires a filter to be able to say like, I'm gonna show you the things you need to know,
Yeah.
not necessarily the things that the staff needs to know or the stuff that your adult children needs to
Yeah.
know, but just what you need to know in order to do the things that you need to do, whether it's signing up for an outing or creating a reservation, right,
Mhm.
in the app or something like that. Have you found that implementing and adoption creates a little bit of a culture shift at some of these communities?
Yeah. I think that we need to remind these communities about the tech as a tool, and that it's not a replacement for that human interaction. The tech that they are going to be implementing or onboarding is to support what they're already doing. So it's not an extra step. It's like if they were to do attendance, they're already doing attendance, but this is to help you make it easier doing your attendance online. And it's really neat because when we think of something that's like digital first, it may scare some people away. They don't want to enter that digital era, but we are in that. And so it's not something like we are switching everything over. We're enhancing what they already have. So, for example, if you're adding all of your attendance into your GoIcon profile, GoIcon uses smart aging insights so that you can really analyze everything that's going on in the entire community, the culture of the community. So you can see behind the scenes, like what programs are people really loving, what programs may not be working in the communities, what residents are really involved, what residents may need a little bit more support, and you're able to actually identify all of those things, but then also get ideas for how to build that culture within your community. So.
I'm so curious, what are some features that have been easily adopted and that have really taken off to your surprise? And what are some features that you absolutely love explaining?
Ooh, so I love, in our Calendar Central area, we have something called our Activity Idea Generator. And so I've been in those shoes before where I can get stumped sometimes as to what to add into some of those calendar placements. And so our Activity Idea Generator, you can go in and say, I have an idea for an Easter craft. Let's plug that in. And there's two different options. You can either have the option that it gives you 3 different ideas, and it will outline everything that you need for those programs and any note space for the staff, how to actually do all of that program. And then it will actually add in photos so that you could do flyers, and it's so quick and easy. But there's another option too that is it will create a program right off of the description that you've added in. So you have those two choices. You can say, okay, I want a blank Easter craft, or you can be more specific, but it will show you exactly how to do the steps to do that program. So that's something that I love as a life enrichment professional, but I also love what we are calling, it's in our Smart Aging Insights, it's called our co-pilot. And the co-pilot's really cool because it looks at all of the information in the background, and it's sort of like a chat GPT, but uses the information. So we always say the more information that you're adding into GoIcon, the more information that you're going to get back. What I love about that is I can go in and say, I'm looking to do an Easter program. I want to involve family members. I want to involve different snacks. Are there any allergies? Are there different suggestions for activities that we should do? And it will actually come up and say, John really likes this, and Mary really likes this, and Susan is allergic to carrots, and it will give you all of that information to create an entire holistic program. So 2 things that back in the day we did not have, and I absolutely love those features.
Back in the day. So I want to ask you also, are there any features that, say, a resident or frontline caregiver has helped shaped within the development of GoIcon?
Yeah, so there's one actually that was more recent and it's just a small change, but it reminds me of this story. They had a nickname. So they were, let's say that their name was Elizabeth, but they go by Libby. On everything that we had, they had to go by their full name. And so it was a super simple ask for us to be able to switch to nicknames in our resident directories and any of the profiles that we were creating. That tiny little ask was able to really make that resident's day. It was able to make her feel like a real person and that we listened to her. And that idea was actually brought to us through our resident advisory board. We have a resident advisory board, we have an executive advisory board, and a community advisory board. And that's something that we love because it's time that we get to spend with the people that are actually using all of our technology. And so we really listen to them and can use all of that information to guide our roadmap down the road.
Yeah, it's so impactful to take someone's feedback and then implement it. And when we're also communicating not only to staff and residents but also with family members, how does GoIcon work in order to communicate how mom is doing today, or how is mom thriving? What classes is she taking?
Oh, it's so easy now to be able to communicate with these families. We have a family engagement app that has just gotten a little facelift, and it's amazing because they can instantly take photos and send them off to mom and dad, or to the daughter, sorry, of mom and dad. They can send announcements really quickly. They can communicate back and forth. And also, when a resident attends something, it automatically can send off that notification to the family member, which is really important because a lot of times, and I'm sure that you've heard this before, the daughter will say, mom never goes to anything. Every time I come in, mom says that she hasn't been to anything. And so without that information being sent right off to them, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important to be able to keep them in the loop, be able to keep them on point, and also be able to see a holistic view of what that resident has participated in. We have something called a wellness report that we can easily click on and send over. And that's telling the daughter or whoever is part of the family member that all of the different activities that they've participated in. So if you have your dimensions of wellness, you can really see what they've touched on within the past. It can be day, 7 days, month.
Yeah, what we found quite often, just from working within communities at the Smarter Service, is that a lot of times the residents, they just get stuck. They get stuck on making a reservation. They get stuck on logging in. And I'm curious, because we do spend a lot of time working with residents and helping them on the platforms.
Yeah.
And how important is having a dedicated tech concierge at a community in order to continue the success of the adoption of the platform?
Well, I think that a tech concierge sometimes can be a person that is on the staff, or it can also be somebody that is on a tech committee. Let's say if a community has a tech committee, I think that having somebody as a tech concierge can really bridge that gap between technology and the person. I think that, we need to be able to support the staff. We don't want them to feel like it's burdening them, that this technology is burdening them. We want this to be really easy. And so again, it goes back to that 3-click rule, having somebody be able to say, no, this is how you can actually adopt this technology in 3 clicks. So.
Yes, because for the people that we're working with, they often need retention. They often need an additional explanation. They may need to relearn it over and over and over again in order for it to really sink in. And so to have like a committed tech concierge in a community who can teach these skills, who can help an older adult resident adopt the technology that's being given to them, is so valuable. It is so valuable. I want to ask you, because you're like an OG here in age tech, and I know we've had previous conversations over the years, and I'm just curious, because you've been in it for a while, if you still see some tech developers and operators getting it wrong when they're creating innovations for older adults, and what might that be?
Tech operators getting it wrong. I think that a lot of operators are still seeing technology as something that residents can't do. I think they're underestimating the seniors right now. And I think that the expectation that seniors aren't able to do things can really be damaging to a community. You know, I think that operators need to they need to realize that seniors nowadays have lived with tech. They are on Facebook. They are communicating with their family members on this. This isn't something that's newer,
Yeah.
and we just want to be able to make tech not complicated for them. They don't want necessarily they don't it's not that they don't want tech, it's that they don't want complicated tech, and neither do I.
Neither do I, that's for sure. It seems like in my experience that just about every 6 months, like the tech landscape evolves in one way or another. However, our buildings, the senior living communities, the buildings, these are permanent structures, and a lot of them aren't necessarily future proofed for where they need to be in terms of the infrastructure that residents are demanding at this point so they can get online and they can stream. So I'm curious how GoIcon is doing any future proofing in this way.
You know, GoIcon has really been ahead of the game, I think, when it comes to technology. We've been early implementing AI since it's been released. It's been around for a long time, and that's something that we have been using for a really long time as well. I think that ultimately, with technology, like our AI is just another tool that is in our toolkit that we can use and that we want the communities to be able to use too. So when new technology comes out, we always evaluate it and then see how it can benefit the families and the residents and the staff that are in the communities. Another thing that future proofing, I would say that wearables is something that has come up quite a bit recently, and that's something that we're partnering with too, to aggregate that data that can be combined so that the wellness data as a whole combined with GoIcon is very holistic, and we can see an entire picture of that resident. So different things that are coming, and yeah, we're excited to really be able to stay on point and stay
Yeah,
ahead of the game.
yeah, exactly. You've got to. I remember it was probably 2018 that I was teaching classes at a community here in Phoenix called Sagewood, which is an LCS property, and they're like a flagship property, and many amazing residents there. And I remember teaching a class, and one of my residents shows up with an Apple Watch, and this was before I had an Apple Watch, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I need to learn how to use this Apple Watch." If more and more residents are showing up with these wearables. And so it was always keeping me on my toes to make sure that like I understood how to use the latest technology. But it's not so much about the gadgets. It's about incorporating it into your lifestyle so that it makes your life, like you're collecting data for your doctor, for your healthcare, for your daughter, so that it makes your lifestyle fuller. And so while we're never teaching about gadgets, we're teaching about how to use them to live a fuller, healthier life.
Yes, 100%.
The other thing I wanted to just talk to you about is how can GoIcon mitigate that epidemic of loneliness that so many older adults are experiencing within their communities and aging at home?
Yeah. Well, our smart aging insights that we have, again, you can see an entire picture of that resident. You're able to understand really what they've attended, so you can learn what dimensions of wellness we're really hitting, which ones are we lacking on, and be able to connect that way. Something we also have is friend matching. So we're able to look at, let's say, John's really interested in golf and race cars, and so is Steve. We're able to understand that because of their profiles, and then connect those two so that they have that connection. Something else is, being able to provide really easy, ready to go activities for these residents. That's something that I'm working on is our content hub. And so we want to be able to have options for our life enrichment teams to be able to provide activities within their own rooms too. And so we make that really easy for those teams to be able to use those. Yeah, but really personalizing the experiences for the residents using all of the information and data that we have in the background so that we can create those experiences.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I'm so glad to hear that. I have kind of an off topic, but I'd love to ask this question to people. It's more like the crystal ball question. So if you're looking in the future, 5 years from now, how are you seeing and what are you predicting is going to be ultra necessary within a senior living community?
What is going to be necessary within senior? I think that technology will always be so important. And I think that we need to stay with the times and stay ahead of the times. I will always continue to say that connection is going to be so important. So coming from a life enrichment background, if I have all of the tools that I can do like that admin work behind the scenes super quickly, so that I can spend those times with the residents, I want all of that. So in the future, I mean, having the most technology that you can have that helps you and doesn't hinder you and helps you continue to have experiences with humans.
Love it. Karina, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
You can connect with me through GoIcon. So you can go to our website, goicon.com, or you can even email me, which is karina.stickle@goicon.com, or on LinkedIn. Here on LinkedIn. I'm on here a lot.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And for those who are joining us, whether live or recorded later on, we are so thrilled. You make our day every time you do that. And thank you to Leading Age Arizona for sponsoring this episode. And we will see you all right back here next week.
Thanks, Abby.